Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So as you guys can see, this video is being filmed on my webcam. I might still get some new lights because the lights that I've been using for basically all these years, they're yellow. And when I was previously filming just using the camera on the front of my computer, I felt like it wasn't picking up the yellow as much. But now I feel like this webcam is, even though I really enjoy this quality, I think it looks really, really good. I'm probably still going to get some new lights. Maybe I don't have like a ring light or a white light or anything like that because I just never felt like I needed it. But now since I'm filming with this new camera, I might get some new lights. So again, you guys know, like, I have a new computer. I'm changing my setup around. So as we move forward, my lights might change and things might change. But yes, so this is my second official video that I'm filming with the webcam on my new computer, because when I go live, I don't go live from here. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this quality. This is going to be a video on reparations. This video has been highly requested. I've also been planning on... Oh, my shit is warm. Can y'all hear that? My fan turned on. Hopefully you guys can't hear that. Hopefully it's not too loud. This video has been highly requested. I've also been planning on doing a video on this for several years. And I've kind of just been getting, different facts and different types of information and different stuff. And so now I'm finally doing my video on reparations. So obviously I'm a Black American. I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery. So obviously I'm in favor of reparations. I feel like people that are not in favor of reparations, I don't know. Like, I don't understand how you cannot be in favor of reparations for Black Americans. I don't care, and I don't care. So, like, please don't leave any comments talking about, this is why I don't think reparations is ever going to happen, or this is why I don't think Black Americans deserve reparations, because I'm just going to delete those comments and I'll probably block you. This is not a free country. This is not a democracy. It's a cheerocracy. It's a dictatorship. Like, I block people, I moderate comments. Like, I know it's a lot of, like, new subscribers, but, like, the way that things are done over here, it seems like it's not the way that they're done on your faves YouTube channel. So before y'all even start with anything like that, just know, if I don't like your comment, I will remove it and I will block your ass. So there's that. As far as reparations go, I personally feel that reparations would solve all of our problems as Black Americans. For anyone that has not seen my video on integration, I will include a link to it in the description box, or you guys can go look it up. But I personally feel that what Black Americans really need is, we need investment in infrastructure and autonomous Black American communities, or what I have also called Black strongholds. I've also talked previously in other videos about how if we had these Black strongholds globally, or global Black strongholds is a term that I've used repeatedly, that would also lead to less of this, fighting over basically Black American culture, art, activism, and ideas. Because if we were able to establish more autonomous Black communities that can function independent of the mainstream white supremacist infrastructure, that would just be sort of better for everyone. With regards to reparations for American chattel slavery, I actually recently did some math, some number crunching, which is really why I've been kind of putting off doing this video, because I hate math, and I never actually sat down and sort of did the hard numbers before. But Aaron Rodgers, football player, was hosting Jeopardy, and this little moment on one of the episodes kind of went viral and started circulating around, because there was a question that was basically on reparations. I will include a little quick clip.
In 2015, Congress authorized payments of $4.44 million to each of these people, $10,000 for each day of their captivity. Joe back.
Who are slaves?
No.
So it turned out the answer to that question was the Iran hostage crisis, which I will include links and information to that in the description box. But basically, that was a terrorist situation where the victims of the Iran hostage crisis were given $10,000 per day for every day that they were held hostage, which amounted to $4.4 million. They were given $10,000 for every day. Each person was given $10,000 per day for every day that they were held hostage. So any of you that followed me on Instagram probably saw this. I posted on Instagram. I said, let's do some math. I said $10,000 a day for every day of slavery. I'm going to be nice and just give a smooth 400 years. 400 years of slavery times 365 days a year is 146,000. 146,000 days. 146,000 days times 10,000 is $1,460 million per person. So the reason why I picked this number is because this is a number that's already been pre-established by the United States government as an acceptable amount for people that have been held basically hostage on American soil. So if that's the rate, if $10,000 a day is the rate, $10,000 a day, and that was real nice. I was like, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna just say just for 400 years of just slavery. Like, I'm gonna be nice. Like, I'm not even gonna include Jim Crow. I'm not even gonna include mass incarceration. I'm not even gonna include the war on drugs and the war on crime, which I absolutely could. But if I just wanted to be nice and just be like, cap it, 400 years of slavery times 365 days a year, that's 146,000 days of basically being held hostage on American soil. So if the going rate is 10,000, again, 146,000 times 10,000 is $1,460 million per person. I also did a little bit more math because I felt like you could crunch these numbers down even more. So I said, let's just round it down. Let's just say an even 1 billion is owed to every DACS. Every descendant of American chattel slavery is owed $1 billion. So I looked at the census and I've looked at some of the updated numbers on race and ethnicity in the United States. It's still really hard to know in terms of the census exactly who is who because we don't have a separate ethnic designation for descendants of American chattel slavery, which is something that we really need and which a lot of people have in fact been pushing for. Right now it just says Black or African American. A lot of us also don't like being called African American, and we need separations by ethnicity and nationality. Otherwise, a lot of averages really don't mean shit because which we've been talking about in Discord, and something I've been thinking about a lot is the law of averages. One really high person can skew the average for everyone. I feel like the best example of this is Warren Buffett, who's worth $81 billion, right? So if Warren Buffett walks into a room with 80 men that are dead broke, right, that have $0 to their name, the average, though, of all those 81 men will be $1 billion each, right? The average net worth of them will be $1 billion each because of the way that the math works, right? You're going to divide it out. Well, there's $81 billion in the room, and there's 81 men in the room, so on average, everybody has a net worth of 1 billion, but that's not really how it works. So we have all of these social systems and structures and programs, like the census, which is used to allocate budgets and all of these things, but we don't have a breakdown by ethnicity and nationality, especially for what is considered Black and or African American in the United States. So we're flying blind here, but I said, let's just say that an even $1 billion is owed to descendants of American chattel slavery, right? The current number of non-multiracial Blacks in America, which is what I like to call them, Blacks in America, right? They're not Black American. They're not quote unquote African American. They are Black in America, which is the difference. They are not BADACS. They are not descendants of American chattel slavery. For anyone that wants to know about DACS, which is a term that I like to use, it's just a term that I like to use because I made it up. I'll include links in the description box to that as well. But the current number of non-multiracial, so monoracial Blacks in America is around 40 million people, right? 1 to 2% of that is established as foreign Blacks. So let's just say 2% of it. Let's just say 2%. So 2% of 40 million is 800K. So just to be safe, again, we could round up to a million, right? We could maybe even round up to 2 million just to be nice, just to adjust. So we have roughly 38 to 39 million Black Americans, descendants of American chattel slavery that are owed $1 billion each. The total amount, because I did do the math there as well, the total amount, if you multiply that out, if you go with the number of 39 million, then the total amount that we would be owed would be 39 trillion. If you go with 38, the total amount that will be owed, 38 trillion. I feel like 38 trillion is a nice round number, so I'm going to stick with that. 38 trillion. A lot of people are going to be like, that's too much. We're never going to get that. The CARES Act that just passed was $3 trillion. This new infrastructure bill, a couple trillion. There's been a lot of bills that's coming out that has been like a few trillion here, a few trillion there, a couple trillion here, a couple trillion there. $39 trillion for reparations is doable, if you ask me. If they don't want to give one lump sum, I feel like they can break it up. If every Black American, if every descendant of American chattel slavery is owed basically $1 billion each, we could split that. We could split it into maybe $500 million cash, that is paid out in installments over the course of generations. And then maybe $500 million per person, that will be an infrastructure investment in that person's lineage. So in their community, in their taxes, we shouldn't have to pay taxes. We should have free healthcare. We should have free education, the building of communities, free housing, free insurance, land and property wherever we want, which that's going to bring me to the idea of Black American strongholds and autonomous Black communities. But before I get into that, I also want to talk about the cost, because I know there's going to be people that are like, well, we can't afford it. Again, it's too expensive. How are we going to pay for it? I know that a lot of people have been talking, even with the bills that we're getting in the legislature that we're getting right now, of like, who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? The American deficit is so high. Number one, I don't give a fuck. I know people are going to be like, well, somebody has to care. Number one, I feel like I don't fucking care. Like, that's not my problem. Like, this whole entire fucking country could go bankrupt for all I care. But from a more rational, like a more logistical perspective, the top 20 richest Americans are worth over $1 trillion altogether. So number one, we need a fucking wealth tax. We need a wealth tax. Absolutely. And for all of you that are like, Jeff Bezos deserves to make $152,000 per minute. That's literally how much money this man makes per minute. I have the stat open right here. $152,000. Technically, it's $152,207 per minute. Over $2,500 per second. If you really think Jeff Bezos deserves to make that much money, he worked hard for what he has. He deserves to have that much money. This isn't a channel for you either, so bye-bye. You can go. Wealth tax. Wealth tax. Wealth tax. They're worth $1 trillion right now at this very moment. And their net worths are going to continue to grow. Don't tell me that there's no money for reparations. Tax these motherfuckers now. Period. In addition to the regular taxes that you tax regular people, which should not include fucking Black Americans our fucking population percentage point has raised 1, even though that is including fucking foreign Blacks. So our percentage point is actually not raised up that much. It's like mostly foreign Blacks and multi-race Blacks that have caused that percentage point to go up. So we're still only like quote unquote 13 to 14% of the population. Like I said, roughly 38 to 40 million people. We're not even close to being a majority. So I really don't give a fuck. Tax everyone else in the United States, as well as implement a wealth tax. You also have people that love to say, well, how will we know? How will we know? Everybody's all mixed up. There's no way of knowing. No. Black Americans, descendants of American chattel slavery, we know exactly who we are. It's very easy to tell who is who on paper, especially when you consider the fact that this huge influx of non-American black people, Blacks in America that are not descendants of American chattel slavery, the vast majority of them arrived here after the 1970s because of the naturalization and immigration laws that came out of the civil rights movement. Because when Black Americans fight, we fight for everybody, okay? Everybody benefits when Black Americans fight. Naturalization and immigration laws got very much loosened in the late 1960s as a part of our movement, which allowed for all these different types of non-white immigrants to come here. So that includes all races. That includes non-Black, Hispanic, or Latino, whatever you prefer, Asians, and now Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, foreign Blacks. All these people are able to come here specifically because of the naturalization and immigration laws of the late 60s. So we're also talking about a very limited window of time, like from 1970 to now, 2021. Like, For reference, my grandmother has been literally living in her house in Washington, D.C. since like 1985, okay? Like, Black Americans have roots in this country, and it's very easy to trace on paper through things like jobs, voter registration, census, mortgages, and then even going back even further, slave documentation and records. You know, people keep records of their fucking chattel, right? Of their property. We have a whole congressional library that's full of records and archives. You know, we have all these things in Washington, D.C. They could put whole congressional teams of historians to track and trace every single fucking Black American in the United States if they really wanted to. Now, we could get into the idea of tracking and tracing and what does that mean in terms of privacy. But I think that when we're talking about something as far-reaching as reparations, I'm just talking about logistically how it is in fact possible, because people keep trying to make it seem like it's so impossible. It's not impossible. The monetary amount is not impossible. I'm just a regular person and I just crunch the numbers to get to a doable amount for a doable addition of the population, and I don't even have the type of resources that could be sunk into this. They have government contracts right now with like 23andMe and Ancestry.com, pharmaceutical contracts and all that stuff. They could put people on this, and there are records of who we are. All of this, we don't know who is who, and everybody's all mixed up. That's gaslighting. That's absolutely gaslighting, and it's false. It's bullshit. Like, we know exactly who's who. We could figure out exactly who's who very easily. And again, I also feel like the stimulus checks in a way have proved this, right? We have records of you know, everybody through the IRS, everybody that is tax eligible should be eligible for reparations. And then once you reach a certain age, 18 or 21 or 25 or whatever they want the age to be, that you become tax eligible again, instead of having to pay taxes, you should start receiving your reparations payments, and you're allocated whatever you're going to get. Again, land, school, a lot of people say they want not just tax breaks, but that they want to own stock, which this is going to get me to my autonomous Black communities portion of the motherfucking TED Talk. So I am planning on doing a full video on books that people should read because I recommend a lot of the same books over and over. A lot of you guys have also said you would love a book club or something like that, especially because I do recommend a lot of the same books. So I am thinking about that, working on that, what could be the logistics of that, but I am absolutely going to do a video on books that people should read. This is one of those books, The Devil You Know by Charles Blow. As you can see, I bought this from Target because I refuse. I'm like really trying to like not buy anything from Amazon. This is actually a fairly new book. It's really interesting because I've been sort of developing my ideas on autonomous Black communities for at least the last 4 or 5 years now, and talking to people and like we're, you know, thinking about some of these ideas and what do I think they should entail. And this book came out, A Black Power Manifesto, and I heard Charles Blow talking about this book on the radio, and I've watched some interviews of him talk about this book, and I had to buy the book because the argument of this book is that, number one, Black Americans need autonomous communities. He's kind of making the argument that Black Americans should move back to the South in order to consolidate our political and economic power. Again, if you have not seen my video on integration, please watch it. I've said that I think that the way that we went about integration was a complete mistake, that I think that instead of focusing so much on moving our physical bodies into white spaces, there should have been more of, no disrespect to anyone that was involved, but there should have been more of an emphasis, put on the infrastructure of our Black communities and strengthening our Black American communities. So instead of like, you know, well, our schools are terrible and, you know, we don't want segregation, we want to be put in the white schools because the white schools are better. Instead, it should have been more of a focus on, and we need to build up our own schools so that our school is equal to or better than their schools. We need infrastructure. We need resources. We need these things sunk into our own communities instead of physically moving out of our communities, because that's something that we still see to this day. This idea of like you have to physically move your Black American body out of your community once you have quote unquote made it, or, you know, once you get a little bit of money. This is something that's really been pervasive in our communities, this type of thinking. So this book, which has really gotten up under, it's really ruffled some motherfucking feathers. a lot of you guys, long-term subscribers, will remember what I talked about in a bunch of my Shea Moisture videos, which is this idea of, Black Americans coming together and consolidating economic power and political power is terrifying to people. I have a video called Fear of a Black Planet, which is like a classic title for those of you that know. And I said it, and I said in that video, and I said in my Shea Moisture videos, we're allowed to have a Chinatown, we're allowed to have a Koreatown, we're allowed to have a little Italy. But anytime Black Americans start talking about, how we want our own, and this is even going back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, going back to Black Wall Street, going back to 9th Street in Arkansas, which was another fucking basically Black Wall Street that they built a highway through. If you don't know about the history in the United States of how when they decided to fucking build these highways and super highways and to connect cities and remove urban blight, all that stuff was really a veiled attempt to demolish Black American communities. I will include links on all these things I'm mentioning and talking about in the description box. And so anytime, which Charles Bull has also said, anytime you talk about Black Americans, like I said, he thinks we should move back to the South in order to really consolidate. Because he talks about how prior to integration, Black Americans were a solid economic bloc and a solid economic voting bloc because we lived together, like prior to integration and prior to the Great Migration of the 1920s. Like we basically ran multiple states in the South. And if we had stayed there and if we had consolidated our power and continued to grow our power, we would basically still run several states, just like how right now we're seeing, not to get too deep into that, but just like how right now we're seeing them, passing these voter registration laws and things like that in Georgia. If we had remained in Georgia the way that we were previously in Georgia, there would not be all this red power in Georgia. And even though you guys know how I feel about politics, I'm not getting into politics, but because I feel like our bipartisan system as a whole has to go. It's trash. I don't want it. I want to see the end of it. I want to see the end of bipartisan politics. I believe in a autocracy, which I will, when I do my video on books you guys have to read, I will be including some of Helen Landamore's work. A brilliant, amazing woman with her idea of a Landamorian process, which is where we basically pick quote unquote elected officials. There are no elected officials. We pick people at random. Ordinary citizens come in. They do their duty almost like jury duty, and then they come out. It's a constant rotation. There's no political parties. There's no consolidation of power. It's just everybody, working together to do their civic duty for our country to run, which I feel like I've done a full video on that, but I might not have. If I haven't, then I will, because people are constantly asking me about that. So I do need a video that I can just direct people to. But we basically need, whether it's you believe in this, we need to move back to the South to consolidate our political and economic power, or be it if you believe what I've talked about in numerous videos now, which is just an idea in general of autonomous Black communities. I definitely think, I don't know if I believe that we have to all move back to the South, even though I know that there's definitely a push for a return to the South, which I think is awesome. And I do appreciate that a lot. But I think that we can establish autonomous communities. See, that's necessary for political gains, because you have to have a lot of people in a voting block together for political gains because of the way that gerrymandering works and things like that. So this is why I'm saying sort of outside of the political scope and the political spectrum, I want autonomous communities that are funded by reparations. So like I said, if every person gets $1 billion, maybe we have 500 million cash that's put to the side. That again, that's payments, direct payments, just money appearing in people's accounts, just like we saw was possible with stimulus checks. And maybe the other 500 million can be allocations for things. So like I said, I've been working on my autonomous Black communities, Black strongholds ideas for a while. So I actually have here, this is what I feel like are the foundations of a successful autonomous community, right? And especially for Black Americans. We need birthing houses, we need midwives, we need doulas. This is actually Black Maternity Week. I believe April 11th through April 18th are the exact dates. Black American women have the highest maternal death rates in any developed country. Our babies also die at higher rates. We die at higher rates. Pregnancy is very scary, very dangerous if you are a Black woman and a Black American woman. So we need birthing houses. We need midwives. We need doulas. We need an ethnic, cultural community center for the preservation of history, language, and culture. Also, shout outs to Mike, who sent me this email about this law that I didn't even know existed. I didn't even know it was a thing. Let me tell you guys, the Indian Arts and Crafts Act of 1990, which is a truth in advertising law which prohibits misrepresentation and marketing of basically American Indigenous or Alaska Native arts and crafts products. This makes it illegal to say that, you are Native or that you have, you're creating something within like Native art or Native culture. Like, that's illegal. Like, you can't do that. So this was actually emailed to me, and someone was like, this is something that Black Americans, this is something that Black Americans need. It is illegal to offer or display for sale or sell any art or craft product in a manner that falsely suggests that it is indigenous produced, an indigenous product, or the product of a particular indigenous tribe or crafts organization within the United States. For a violation of the act, an individual can face civil or criminal penalties up to a $250,000 fine or a 5-year prison term. So absolutely, Mike, you're absolutely right. He was like, we need something like this. We also need something like this. We need recognition and official designation of Black Americans as our own ethnicity on the census, as well as within the government, as well as laws passed to protect the sanctity of our culture and to make it a crime to steal that shit. Absolutely. So again, in addition to a birthing house with midwives and doulas, we need ethnic cultural community centers for the preservation of history, language, and culture. We need media centers full of equipment for producing creative fiction and non-fictional narratives. We need community patrolling and policing, which I have done a video on that as well. That's called On Community Patrolling. I've been to some indigenous reservations, and I've seen myself the way that like tribal law works. Most indigenous reservations are considered almost like unincorporated land outside of the United States. So when something happens, like the police don't have to come. Like they have their own police. We need something like that. We need co-ops for autonomous education in schools, which there's already people that are sort of working towards this, like Marva Collins. There's I believe it's called the Black School. It's ran by some artists. Let me tell you guys exactly. It is called the Black School, an experimental art school teaching art and radical Black politics. Or we have LeBron's I Promise School, but we need our own schooling. We need our own education. We need agricultural centers for growing food, crops. We need urban farm plots. We need Black-owned grocery stores and co-ops, pop-up markets, mobile markets, and CSAs, which are community share agriculture boxes. We need economic centers like the Mosaic Templars, which those of you that have watched the Black Americans have seen and heard me talk about the Mosaic Templars, which were a Black American fraternal organization that was ran out of Little Rock, Arkansas, that basically it was founded because Black Americans, during segregation, we were not allowed to go to a white-owned bank, obviously, and get a loan. It was initially started because people did not have the money to bury their dead. And there was nowhere to even bury our dead because the cemeteries were segregated, right? Because I guess white dead bodies can't be around Black bodies. So the Mosaic Templars was started to, provide Black Americans with funds, with loans to bury our loved ones and to start creating Black-owned cemeteries. And it actually grew to a huge organization that provided business loans, that gave people the ability to become entrepreneurs, that basically gave us loans for housing, that gave us loans for, really anything we need. And we need more economic centers like that. Loans, business management, all that. We need, in addition to specific birthing houses, which is a place where you specifically go to have a baby, we also need Black American hospitals, doctors, dentists, health practices, including homeopathic and plant-based medicine. We need, again, schools and trade clinics as well. So not only do we send our kids to school just to learn knowledge, which obviously we need, but I do think that we also should prepare our kids with trades. You guys have heard me talk repeatedly about trades, about picking up a trade, about picking up a skill, something that you can always make money off of, something that no one can take away from you. Plumbing, electrician, welding, nursing, all these things, even though nursing right now is kind of dangerous, but things that are a skill that you can always kind of fall back on, caregiving, things of that nature. And just overall, again, grocery stores, banks, entrepreneur programs, grants, places of worship for spiritual healing and guidance and community service, as well as mental and physical spaces for our collective well-being. I think that it should be a commune structure, and I feel like this would require divestment from our current established infrastructure. But when I was first talking about this 5 years ago, a lot of people thought this was like a really radical and extreme concept idea. But now we have books like this one. Now we have more people that are talking more and more about like maybe we do need to defund the police, as we're in the middle of Derek Chauvin's trial and another Black person has just been literally shot and killed by police. We need to eject from our current infrastructure. And I think that it is possible with reparations to invest into our own infrastructure. And I started off with giving you guys some numbers that could make all of this type of communities and community building and infrastructural foundations possible. And I do think it's possible. I don't think that anything I just said to you guys is impossible. We could have use of reparations in terms of monetary payments as well as investment in infrastructure for autonomous Black communities, Black strongholds, Black American strongholds. And I think that the implementation of this certain types of infrastructure into our neighborhoods and communities to increase autonomy, that's what we need. That's what we need. That is what we need. That is what we are owed. And I also think that this type of concept could be replicated even in other, not funded by reparations, because if y'all want to go get reparations from France and your home country, do that. But not from the United States. We're the only ones that's owed reparations for American chattel slavery in the United States, period. Period. $1 billion per person. 38 or $39 trillion overall, with 500 mil allocated for monetary payments that need to just appear in our accounts, and 500 mil per person that's allocated for infrastructure investment in autonomous communities, with the foundation being the creation of these communities that have at least all of those aspects that I just named. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They should have at least, it's like an 11-prong system that we could really use reparations, which are doable, to invest into the infrastructure. And then Black Americans, then nothing else will matter. Nothing else will matter. Everybody could leave us alone. Everybody could do whatever they want, especially if we get laws passed recognizing our ethnicity and making it illegal to steal from us. Again, thank you to Mike for that email. Then everybody else could do whatever they want, and they could just leave us niggas alone. They will never have to hear from us again. So, reparations. Obviously, I'm in favor of reparations. Obviously, I've been thinking for a long time about the ways that reparations could be implemented and things that we actually need in terms of infrastructure. You guys know infrastructure is my word. That's my go-to. I am also working on some writing on this. It's possible that by the time you guys watch this video, the writing might be complete, at which point I will include a link or an upload or something like that for anyone that wants to read a little bit more on this concept. But this is how I feel. So, highly requested video, one that I've been thinking about and working on for several years now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments. There will be tons of links to relevant information and also this book in the description box. So please feel free to check it out. Again, food for thought as always. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. See you next time. I think I said that out of order. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Black Americans deserve reparations and we will receive them. Peace.